Well, that just happened. Um, Reacting here to the debate that just happened between Donald Trump and and Joe Biden. Welcome into the horse race, by the way. My name is Daniel Vaughn. I'm your host here. I'm a senior columnist at the Conservative Institute, and kind of just going through all the things here right now. You can catch my columns here at the Conservative Institute. We're working on columns tonight to go out tomorrow and newsletters. So make sure you sign up for all that. Um, but for now, we're going to go through the debate that just happened between the two leading candidates here. Going into the debate, I talked a lot about how the polls benefited Donald Trump. And what that means if you're the candidate behind matters is that you've got to make a moment happen. You have to come out swinging and change the state of the race. And that's what Joe Biden had to do. It's not just that he had to keep things steady in the race coming into this race because he's behind. He had to have a moment here where he comes out swinging, knocks a big punch to Donald Trump, and comes out with better polling figures on the backside. And in just about every conceivable way, this debate went the exact opposite. Not only did the debate, uh, not only did it not keep things steady, it actively has now hurt Joe Biden's chances. I'm saying this before any polling has come out. I haven't looked at any, the so-called focus groups that people run. Um, there's a lot of things that you can do in a debate to help and hurt yourself, and I can only really count one moment in this debate where I thought Biden landed a few punches here against Trump. That was a good moment for him from start, particularly the set pieces. So if you're a candidate in one of these debates, you have your set pieces where you have your intro, you have your outro, and both of those are going to be scripted. So during your debate prep, and Biden had this for the entire week, that was all set up for him. He would have had it memorized. He would have gone in and done it. And those were probably the worst moments for him. The set pieces where he was supposed to come in and have something memorized, prepared, and ready to go. And that's where he failed the hardest. And so you know that it is bad if Biden is sitting here throwing out excuses early on. And that's what we have here in the news coverage. Flip here to the news here. So the first thing that we have is that the White House is saying that Biden has a cold, and that's the very first thing. And so this is a little bit like working the refs. If you're into sports or something, this is where you have one side saying, well, we would have won this, if just the umpires had called everything straight. And that this is what this is. And it may very well be true that he had a cold, but that's not the problem with what happened in this debate. It's not the problem what happened here at all. The problem is that Biden was consistently incoherent at parts. He struggled to get through answers to just about everything, and he struggled the most, and I think this is important, to get through the parts that were the most prepared, where he was trying to remember what he was trying to say. And there was a moment that I think may have gotten missed because of just kind of where we are in the debate here. And we're going to try to blow this up. And so this is let's see here. Let's do that. So this is just after the debate had ended, and what you have here in the center of the screen is you have Jill Biden coming in to help Biden off the stage. So Trump has already walked off. This is Trump walking off. He's doing his thing, going off. The moderators are here at the center of the stage, and then you have Jill Biden. You have her here helping him off, and it looks really awkward here where she's got his hand. You got others coming over here with cameras, and it looks super, super awkward. And here he comes down the steps, gingerly walking off. It just looks really awkward here. And let's go back to that part. And this is another one of those things that you're going to see the White House call a cheap fake or a deep fake. And it's where he looked feeble all night and he can't even get down the steps that had elevated the podium here um, at the CNN debate. And they're just kind of walking him over to the moderators. So that is one of those things that is like, I fully expect this thing to go viral. I've retweeted it myself. And it's just, this is where CNN just kept the cameras rolling. And Biden is walking around as bad off stage as he did, at the beginning when he walked onto the stage. I mean, the moment he walked onto the stage, everyone had the same reaction, which was, this is bad. He does not look like he's himself. And you don't have to take my word for it. The New York Times, when they were running their coverage live during it, within 30 minutes of the debate starting, you had the New York Times publishing a piece saying that they were already hearing their high anxiety from Democrats over Biden's debate performance 30 minutes into it. They talked to 3 veteran Democratic presidential campaign officials. All of them had the same reaction, that it's a disaster. You can go over here to Drudge. He's got the same reaction here. Replace Biden. This is where we are. Now, I've written in the past that I thought the State of the Union was this sort of thing where Democrats needed the State of the Union to go well in order to prevent a move to replace Joe Biden. That is back on the table now. We are back at the place where you're going to actively see a debate over the next few weeks, at least until the next debate or whenever that's going to be, over whether or not Joe Biden should be replaced. Operation, they've got 130 days. That's counting down to the convention. They've got 130 days to the August convention, which is already, they were already talking about being a virtual convention and not even having people there to do the things. The cold story, White House spins the worst debate point in history. There are stories about, people joking about whether or not this is Gavin Newsom's moment to step in. It's really not. The only answer here is Kamala Harris. That is the point that Democrats don't want to seem to contend with. There is no getting around Joe Biden without going through Kamala Harris, and that may be actually a worse answer for them. So you've got both ends here. You've got the New York Times. You got Drudge saying this. One of the stories that he was quoting here was this part about the AP. They've actually, ironically enough, changed their headline. So that from what I saw earlier, and this is how the AP is trying to shade it here, where they're talking about, Trump is responding with falsehoods, but they're calling Biden halting. This right here is the qualifier. They're trying to just throat clear and throw in a negative line about Trump. This is the league's note coming out from this one. Biden, they call it halting. It wasn't halting. It was an abysmal performance by the president. You've got this story in Reuters. Biden stumbles early. Trump fires out falsehoods. So it's the same thing. So these are the wire services. They're going with falsehoods. And the thing is, I saw multiple fact checks from some of these same news organizations like NBC and some others about things that Biden was saying that were falsehoods, like the part where he mentioned that he didn't have any soldiers die under his watch, which is untrue, as you may well know, because 13 soldiers died in Afghanistan due to his pullout. So you have these falsehoods on both sides, but it's important for them to throw this qualifier in here. You have to put in the Trump part because everybody knows the real story is this. Biden has stumbled. He's halting. Mediaite had an even worse reaction here because, they're saying that he looks ancient, sounds ancient. He's getting roasted just minutes in. And it went like that way all the way throughout. Chris Silzia is a guy at CNN or has been in the past. You've got, these are people who are going to be voting for Biden, and they're saying this is a disaster. This is a disaster. And it just gets worse the whole way through. And it didn't let up. So this is arguably one of the worst debate performances ever. And it's not really even debate on that specific point. Biden is behind in the polls. He had to come and make a point where he brought himself back into this thing, and that's not happening. The New York Times here, this is their headline. They're takeaway here, I mean, they're doing the same here with the evasions and things, but the takeaway the New York Times is getting right here: Biden struggles. That is the takeaway you need to have here, because everybody saw the same thing. The Wall Street Journal. You've got some a little bit harder line here. He gives an unsteady performance. Trump keeps the strip. I actually think this is probably a little bit more of an accurate description, just in a headline fashion, of what happened, because Trump stayed, for him, pretty well composed, I thought. Normally, he's kind of all over the place. He will ramble, and ironically enough, the constricting nature of the debate structure kept him within the confines, and so didn't really venture outside of it. And I also think he looked at Biden early on and realized if he just stick to script, that's all he had to do. He would look good when compared visually and optically to Biden. I thought it was pretty interesting here. MSNBC, Biden stumbles. They're trying to focus in on the election part here of Trump's answers. I get that. But from left to right, the entire spectrum, if you're analyzing this rationally, everybody had the exact same response. And this is this news side. NBC News is saying, this is Biden's shaky performance. So all across the news spectrum, you're getting the same reaction here. Now, obviously, you're going to see people throw out, well, we need to get some snap polls of some reactions. They'll put people to focus on the focus groups and things like that. And, while that may be worthwhile, it may be worth it to, look at those sorts of things. You need to focus in, and I'm going to pull them up here. Again, you go back to the polls. You go back to where we were pre-debate, as I was covering leading into this. Who was in the lead? Who needed to make the move? And the answer to that is very simple. It was Joe Biden. The polls that have come in recently are brutal. You had a double whammy here for Biden, 4 plus 4 and plus 4. That was what was leading in today. The best poll for Biden right now is coming from Fox News. I mean, that's just straight up. They're an A+ pollster, and most of the averages, they've got it in a +2. There's a lot of red on this right here, and the lead that Trump has right now in the averages is the largest that he's had in 3 months, 4 months. But you'd have to go back around early May, maybe April there, to get a similar type of margin. And before that, you have to go back to the winter to get a similar type of margin. So this is where we are. If you look back, Biden was leading by 9 points, 9+ points at this time. If you go back to 2016, Clinton was leading by 6.8. So you see the spread here. This is what Biden has to overcome. So he came into this debate needing to deliver a big blow against Donald Trump. And not only did he fail to do that, he probably has hurt his chances considerably, because we're talking about replacing him now. If you look even into the battleground states here in Real Clear Politics, you get a similar thing. You get a widening picture of where things are headed. The two closest ones here are going to be Wisconsin and Michigan, but the rest of these, I mean, you're looking at wipeouts. North Carolina, Georgia, these are not going to be contested states at this point. Arizona is sitting in a similar position where it may not be a contested state by the time we get to the election if these trend lines continued. The one that I keep telling everybody to watch is Pennsylvania. I believe it's going to be the most important state, because it's going to kind of dictate and tell us what's going to happen in Michigan and Wisconsin. And you're looking at Trump at 2.8. And we have had recent polling there. I know I mentioned before that we kind of not had enough polling in Pennsylvania, but we have here recently with the Hill and Emerson giving us a Trump +2. So, and the important thing about this is it's post-conviction. So the story that we're getting here is that the conviction is not mattering. And I thought the lone good point for Biden was when he got into that with Trump and got into a lot of the personal shots with him. But that came probably about 45, 50 minutes into the debate, which is pretty late. So up until that, you had 45 minutes of just bad for Biden. And then he finally gets some hits against Trump. And then it fades because you get to the end of the debate and Biden fades again. So this is just the math at this point for Biden, for Trump. The averages are bad. The generic is now flipping towards Republicans again, and this is just asking voters, would you prefer a Republican or a Democrat to be in this seat, whether it's White House, Senate House, whatever it is. Democrats have taken a lead here recently, but it's now flipping back to Republicans. And so you're seeing this shift happen across the board. So what needed to happen again tonight? Again, Biden had to deliver a knockout blow to Trump. Didn't happen. And the exact opposite is the thing that it likely happened. Given the way that we're seeing a lot of the headlines here, I don't think there's going to be any way for the White House or any of the other media outlets to really spin this, because this isn't one of those things where they can sit back and say, "Oh, well, this is one of those cheap fakes or deep fake or anything like that." This was Biden on the national stage for everyone to see. You're not getting around that kind of thing. So I would expect him to lose some ground. What'll likely happen is you'll see Biden support among independents and even probably among Democrats soften a little bit, which will weaken his support in the polls. I don't think it's not like you're going to see people flip from one to the other. You're going to see people who are either in the middle or among Democratic support basically say they don't want to support him right now. So they're not going to answer a poll, or they're not going to just respond how you would like them to if you're looking for those Democratic voters. So I actually do expect this is going to soften him up here and hurt him in the polls as we're moving forward. And then the big question, just going back, you got to go back to Drudge on this. Are Democrats going to make a move to replace him here? I have thought for a while that the reason that they brought the debates back to June was to prevent anything like this from happening, where if you have Biden as the one debating, it makes it much harder to replace him once you get to the convention time. Nate Silver had the opposite view of me. He said that the reason you move the debates out here is because it gives you a chance to look at Biden and then decide whether or not you're going to replace him. This is the headline that we've got for that. We had this early on after the Robert Hur report came out, and right now, if you're Republicans, you've got to get those audio tapes out, because if this is the Biden that's in those audio tapes, you can see why Hur came to that conclusion that he couldn't prosecute him, because if this is the Biden that you've got, I can see how he could do that. So those audio tapes, the reason that the White House is blocking them, despite having already released a transcript, is because they are probably on par with this debate. It would be a disaster for the White House if the audio came out versus the transcript. So you're going to see a mad dash among Democrats here, because when the New York Times is out here saying that he's struggling, and when you go back and you see them reporting in their opinion pages with their editors saying that there's high anxiety, this is a 5-alarm fire for Democrats. That's really the takeaway. And, that is the takeaway over anything that even Donald Trump said in the debate. Because Biden's performance was so bad, it makes Trump a secondary news event to this. That's all the wire services they're focusing on. Well, Trump lied, Trump did this. And while that is newsworthy as a secondary issue, it's going to be secondary to the number one issue for all voters. Consistently, if you look at all polling, it's Biden's age. And he did nothing to distill this. And then, towards the end of the debate, we actually got a question on that from the moderators. And I tweeted at the time that I thought that Biden had to give the answer of his life on that specific question. And it went again into one of those rambling, soft-spoken things where it was sort of incoherent. And he didn't give the knockout punch that he needed to get. So the takeaway from this debate, this first one, is Biden's implosion. How the White House is going to reverse this, I have no idea. But they have got a full-on disaster on their hands, and until they figure out how to, fix that, you're looking at more of this talk here. So I'm expecting the key thing I'll be watching in the morning will be Politico, because you're going to see them try to spin this in some way and give whatever Politico says is going to be the mainstream Democratic opinion, because they repeat that pretty much verbatim. And so whatever they're going to say or whatever spin they put out, that's going to be how the White House is thinking. And if it's weak in the morning, it's going to be bad for Democrats. If Politico comes out talking about replacing Joe Biden, all bets are off. I have no idea what's going to happen. I don't think they'll go there, but that is going to be the talk come morning. So keep an eye out for what's happening. This is my reaction to this. I'm going to get back to writing my column in my newsletter and get all this out. So I'll talk to you guys next week on YouTube, and look for my columns. I'll talk to you later.